Do you know what happens to all the food waste that you throw into your bin? Do you know where it goes? Well, it goes to the landfills and rots out there. But what if? What if you could prevent that? And not only prevent it, but also turn it into something very useful. In understanding soil section, we had learned how microbes and other soil organisms like earthworms break down organic matter in soil to release food for plants. Composting in a nutshell is accelerating that process of breaking down organic matter. And when decomposition is done by composting earthworms, the compost thus produced is called as vermicompost. The composting process can be largely categorized into aerobic and anaerobic process. In aerobic decomposition process, oxygen is present, while anaerobic decomposition happens in the absence of oxygen. Hence, aerobic compost is rich in oxygen, while anaerobic compost lacks oxygen, which is not a good thing for the soil. Moreover, anaerobic composting is a smelly process and yields less compost than aerobic process. Hence, we'll stick to aerobic composting only. To compost your kitchen waste, all you need is a few buckets, air, water, and brown and green organic matter. As the name suggests, brown organic matter is organic matter that looks brown, and green organic matter must be green in color. Well, almost, but not quite. Greens are fresh organic matter, while browns are mature. Hence, greens have water content, while browns are dry. Upon maturing, organic matter start losing nitrogen, and hence carbon to nitrogen ratio or CN ratio is higher in browns. Here are some examples of greens and browns. You may have noticed that coffee grounds, though a dark brown in color, are classified as greens. In understanding soil section, we had learned that for every part of nitrogen that microbes consume, they need lot of carbon to balance their diet. Scientists have found out that the ideal carbon to nitrogen ratio to feed the microbes in a composting bin should be approximately 30:1. Translated into simple terms, it means the greens to brown ratio in your compost bin should be around 2:1. So for composting, all you need to do is add required quantities of greens and browns in your compost bin and you're almost done. However, there are certain things that you should and should not do. First, do not add your limes and lemons and oranges into the compost bin. Strictly, you should never add any oil, meat or dairy products. Sometimes adding in a little compost can accelerate the process of decomposition. Food scraps that you add in should be cut into as small pieces as possible. By cutting into smaller pieces, what you're actually doing is increasing the surface area and thus helping more and more microbes to feed on it. If you're using dried leaves as your browns, you also need to make smaller pieces of it, again to increase the surface area. And lastly, the compost bin must be kept in a well shaded area. Vermicomposting. There are certain earthworms which are composting earthworms. In this part of the world, we use red wigglers for composting. These earthworms are heavy eaters. They eat mostly semi-decomposed organic matter which passes through their gut and finally comes out as excreta. And this earthworm poop is what is vermicompost. It is one of the richest forms of compost.